Welcome to this edition of Workplace Culture Wisdom, a conversation series with experienced leaders. Hello, and welcome to this episode of Workplace Culture Wisdom. Today, my guest is Jayme Jones, and she is an applied researcher at a community college in British Columbia. She is also the project director for a 3-year project called Bridging Rural Homelessness and Wellbeing. She is someone who collaborates to co-create resilient communities. And Jayme and I have been in some conversations over the past year about the work that she does and the work that we do. And we've started to talk more recently about what inclusivity means and what it means to create an inclusive environment, not just within the workplace, but within the community settings where we operate. And hopefully in today's conversation, we're going to cover both of those things, even though we have about 20 minutes for the conversation. Welcome, Jayme.
Thank you so much for having me, Kathy. Yeah.
Very excited that you're here. And I want to start with this question of, like, from your experience, what makes up a healthy workplace culture?
That's such an important question because I've worked in workspaces that weren't healthy, but you don't realize that until you work in one that is healthy. It is about having trusting leadership that really give you an opportunity to shine, to show your skills. Shared leadership. So, regardless of what hierarchical structure that you have, it's giving an opportunity that no matter where you are in a workplace structure, that you can work together and have some shared leadership. I mean, ultimately, certain responsibilities will lie with certain individuals depending on what they do, but to give anyone in the workplace the opportunity to show that leadership and to take some chances and give them trust and space to grow and learn is really important. And I think what goes along with that is also letting folks know that sometimes things don't go as planned. I work with students a lot in the work that I do at a community college. And so it's really important, for example, to give students an opportunity to try things. And sometimes it's not going to work, but it's never about making anyone feel bad if something doesn't work. It's a big, okay, good effort, nice try. Now let's work on figuring out how we can improve this, make it better. What did we learn from it? And talking through that. I'm quite My approach is always like share more information, be really transparent with my teams. I've had, as an example, I was in a situation where I happened to have a student with me and ended up having a conversation with someone in our organization that was really challenging. Like it was, in that specific example, what happened is something didn't go as planned. I was quite frustrated from, just this specific scenario, and I started to express my frustration with this other individual, but I kept it very respectful. And and it was a little bit a challenging spot because I had this student with me. So then when we left, I, talked through it with the student and explained the situation. And I said, this is why I was frustrated. This is what I'm thinking of doing about the situation and how to approach it. And what's really interesting is something happened later, a couple days later, and I was like, "Oh, I'm so glad I didn't respond in a bad way in the situation because there was information that I wasn't aware of that couldn't be said to me at that time that had to play into the situation." And I debriefed with the student about this. I was like, "Hey, do you want to hear something cool that I learned? Remember that situation that was really awkward and had some challenges to it? I learned something about this, and this is what I learned." And it was so powerful for the student to be part of that. And to me, that is an example of a healthy workplace. It's like when you can show respect, you can then name your emotions. It's like, oh, I was frustrated there, and this is what I learned from it. And then circling back and even diving deeper with the reflections later with the student to learn. That's just kind of one general idea, but it's those types of interactions where we're kind to each other. We can be reflective. and we can share and giving some opportunity for some different leadership.
I love that example, Jayme, because we never know all of the things that are going on in someone's life, and we can for sure be frustrated for ourselves, but the more we'll often say this curiosity and judgment cannot exist in the same space. So if I notice that I'm being frustrated, if I could be curious about that, then
Mhm.
that's just enough to give me a pause to check maybe some of the things I thought I might say so that we can be respectful. And in that instance, you were fortunate enough to receive information later, which then allowed you to validate your response in the beginning, and it became a great teaching moment for the student that you were with.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if you could say a little bit more about shared leadership and what that looks like in your context.
Yeah, shared leadership to me. It's so I have a lot of folks that you could say work under me, but I hate to use those terms. I kind of look at it more as more responsibility lies with me for what happens with the team, and I'll take ownership of that responsibility. But I really like to share leadership amongst the groups that I work with. So this happens in multiple different ways. So, for example, I recently was organizing this really large event. At this event, I know I'm only one person. Yes, I can take responsibility overall for the whole event, but I can't take care of every single component. I want to share that leadership. And so I had students working with me. I had folks from the community working with me, and specifically some of these folks. The topic was around homelessness, this event that I was organizing. And so I had folks with lived experience of homelessness working with me as well, because that's really important. Nothing about us without us. And so the opportunity to give them some leadership as well. And so what that looked like is me working with them and doing lots of iterations. So, giving them the opportunity to take leadership on one component of the event. Okay, what's your ideas? Okay, let's talk through the ideas and we give suggestions and make tweaks and share and help it grow. Um, so this event that I organized had multiple smaller parts of it. And so a student took a leadership on one part, folks with lived experience took leadership on another part. What I helped to do is create the overall structure and safety. So we had a detailed plan of what the day was going to look like. And the student knew which section she was going to be leading. Obviously knew that I was there to support her. Our lived experience team, same thing, had some leadership on their components, but I was there to support them. We had a really detailed plan, but the key here is that in that detailed plan, there was lots of safety in the sense that if it didn't quite go exactly how we thought it was going to go, it's okay. Within the plan, we knew kind of who is the person to contact about that specific element in the agenda. And what was so great is I was up facilitating the event at this one point in time, and I was realizing I'm in front of everyone hosting, and all of a sudden, okay, well, it's not quite going as planned. I'm not sure what's happening. Um, but I have everyone watching me and I need to, hold the space. Well, I could see the student going off and she knew exactly what needed to be done in this other area because we did all the planning ahead of time. And she was able to troubleshoot it, come back, report back to me, and we were able to create space and work with that emergence that needed to happen. And it's been so lovely to reflect on this after the event. So it went off relatively smooth, with some flexibility and trust in the process. Recently, I had an opportunity to debrief with the student, and it was so powerful to hear from her because that experience of that leadership that she had something that she hadn't been able to do before and never had that experience. But she knew that she had trust in me and she knew enough about the plan that she was able to go and help support me, even though it wasn't something that was specifically tasked to her. So that's just one specific example. But to me, that's how shared leadership can be successful when there's trust in uh, the safety that folks can try something, know they're not going to get in trouble.
I like I like that for some people. I think that there's a paradox here, which is detailed plan creates that space for both shared leadership and emergence. And the difference, I think, is some people think detailed plan is a rigid plan. And the more rigid we are with our plan, then the more making mistakes is actually problematic versus we're adjusting to what's showing up in the moment and all finding our way through that. So you've identified a number of components that contribute to a sense of safety. In this case, a community event, but also thinking about the workplace. And so
Yeah.
one of it is the leadership that you're bringing around setting that tone for it's okay to make mistakes and we can talk about it and then we can move on. And the other is another one is this sense of planning so that we have a plan, so we actually know what we're doing, but we're also going to be okay if we fall outside of the plan for whatever reason. Is there anything else that you would say would contribute to a sense of safety or someone feeling supported, or feeling more included or a sense of belonging?
Yeah. Something that I do so intuitively that I forget to mention it, but when I think back to kind of the basic baby steps is allowing people to show up as their true selves. And I do that in multiple ways in the work that I do. We have regular check ins with our teams, and we always start with just a general check in. Like, I genuinely care about what you did this weekend or what's going on in your world, or tell me about your kid, or if you're frustrated today because something happened. Those things matter in the work, like with the groups that we work with. Like, folks know that they come and talk to me. And likewise, I'll do the same. If I've had a really horrible day, or say a horrible evening, didn't sleep enough, and I'm doing my check-in with my teams, they'll say, I'm tired, I'm here, I'm on it, but I'm tired today. And I think that invitation for folks to show up and be their authentic selves, not just their work role, but their true selves, matters a lot in how we show up. And it's taking that time to have those connections. And that sometimes can be hard in our work day. But I think relationships are key. So these are relationships with, in my case, whether it's the people I'm immediately working with, or students, or community partners, or people with lived experience. I genuinely care about who you are. And I think when I express that, then it comes, folks feel safe to share. And then it kind of trickles around all the different systems and networks we work with, and it shows up and creates that.
Yeah, and it shows up because that's also who you are, right? It's the words that you say, but it's also how you convey that through your body language and your tone and the the energetic field that just didn't like infuses out. It's kind of all there. And we can be that, but we can also learn that. Like there's skills to be able to practice things like that, like mindfulness and more awareness and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
We also think relationships are key, and I think that people think it takes a lot of time to build those relationships, but if you start right off the bat with things like you were talking about with check-ins and whatnot, you set the tone for that and you just continue to build the relationships. What takes a long time to do is repair broken relationships. But if you're maintaining them as you go, then that sets the foundation for all the other things that happen after that.
Yeah.
One more question that I have for you is you talk about having worked with people with lived experience, and we know that lived experience can apply to any number of range of situations, but you're specifically working with homelessness, and bringing that sense of well-being into all of that. One of the things that I wonder about is for organizations or workplaces that are considering hiring someone who is homeless or has been homeless, and we know there are lots of homeless people out there who have jobs, which is paradoxical thinking for a lot of people. What are some suggestions or ideas that you would share with someone who wants to bring someone who's homeless into the workplace and enable them to feel a sense of belonging there?
Yeah, that's such a great question. And I really think it's not just even for that specific group, but anyone who, is vulnerable or
Mm.
lives on the margins or suffers from stigma and discrimination or just have had barriers and challenges. Like this could really, um, it's not an isolated specific group.
I
Uh,
love that actually, Jayme, that you've expanded that whole notion to anyone who is vulnerable in a whole range of things. I appreciate that. Thank you for that.
yeah, for sure. And it has been such a joy for me having the opportunity to engage with folks um, and bring them in to the work that I do. Again, it's really important, and it starts with a relationships piece we just talked about. So it's all about relationship building, and once you have that trust in relationships, then you support them as best you can. And what I've been finding is it's a bit of a delicate balance of, as with anyone, you have to match the support that you give to the capacity and where folks are at. So you're meeting people where they're at. And and that comes with lots of opportunities, and it also comes with a few challenges. And what I have really reflected on recently is, again, having enough structure, like we talked about, to support whatever task you're working on and working with folks, having some flexibility, but meeting them where they're at to give them that leadership to do whatever they need to do and support them without being overbearing. And again, it comes back to safety. It's like, it's okay. But the one takeaway that I've had is I realized that I carried an unconscious bias to my expectations. And that's been a really interesting thing that I'm trying to, move from the unconscious to be more conscious of it. It's like, what is how can we support someone to grow and do really good work while meeting them where they're at? And so, what I found is at one point in time with a specific task, there was a mismatch for me where I was unconsciously expecting something here and ended up with something here. In the end, it didn't matter. This was absolutely perfect. But I noticed within myself that I was like a bit upset, like, oh, like, why isn't this happening? It's like, wait a minute, it's okay. This is what shared leadership is about. And this ended up being the perfect thing and exactly where it needed to be. And at the end of the day, it was perfect, built capacity and supported that person. So again, it's never or I shouldn't say it's never, it's about being aware where there's that disconnect between your unconscious expectations and what success actually looks like. And so now I'm starting to recalibrate myself when working with folks that I still have lots of opportunity for growth, but realizing that they are perfect exactly how they are. And how can I support that and keep building confidence and strength within them for those tasks?
I think some people would say that's a lot of work. And so my question to you is, why does it matter and why should they care about doing that kind of work, especially for vulnerable populations or anybody who might need a little bit of extra support in being successful in the workplace?
It is extra work, but it's the right thing to do. To me, it's like we, as a society, we have to support everyone. And so a healthy team has people across all sorts of skills and capacities. And so it's not, I'm not saying only focus on one specific population, but when you create a team that has a wealth of experience um, and a wealth of capacities and you all support each other, it's okay to spend extra energy to support certain individuals working on certain tasks that might take more effort, but they're building their capacity and eventually they'll be able to support and work with someone who's maybe at a younger stage of development as they're maturing in their stage of development, and you work together as a team and you support each other, and collectively everyone's capacity is going up.
I really appreciate that reflection and response. And what you make me think of is we really are better together, and thinking about things from a more holistic perspective rather than just financial bottom line driven, which in a variety of ways sometimes skews organizational culture. I also really appreciate your answering these questions about lived experience and kind of bringing that in, because you're the first person that we've had this conversation with that extends beyond just what's happening inside of the corporate culture, the organizational culture. And I think it's a really important one, because that sense of creating a sense of inclusivity and belonging
Yeah.
is important no matter what we're talking about in terms of the workplace, and what applies to vulnerable populations could actually also apply just to anybody.
Well, it's depending on what a workplace topic is, like what your workplace is, even if you're building widgets, why couldn't you include folks that, have disabilities or, challenges that might need more support? But there's so much incredible wisdom from their perspective as well that could help contribute in a way that you might not even anticipate. So I think there's lots of different ways you can look at it and apply it.
Yeah, that's great. Do you have any last things that you would like to say, or something that I haven't asked you that you'd like to share here?
I just coming from a previous role where I was not in a healthy workplace to being in one where we have such a strong, healthy workplace with so much respect and trust and open communication. When there's a healthy workplace, just from my own personal experience, I'm willing to do 150, 200% effort continuously because of that. And it trickles down to everyone that works around us. And to me, that is so valuable because it only opens doors. A toxic environment or unhealthy workplace closes doors. People work to rule, and obviously you need balance in work. But from my personal experience, being in a wide variety of experiences, that a healthy workplace is gold, and to me should be the most important thing when looking for a place to spend all these hours each day. It's got to be healthy. If it's not healthy, it's not the right place to be.
Right, I would agree with you. And if our workplace is not healthy and enabling us to like live to our full potential, then that affects all the rest of our life as well.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you, Jayme, so much for being with me today and chatting about workplace culture wisdom.
Thanks for having me, Kathy. It's been great.
Go to worldviewprograms.com to learn more about our Healthy Workplace Culture Program options.